everybody, and welcome back to the podcast of the Fallen. I am your host, Nathan, and I am joined as always by my friend, Matt.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Matt.
We still don't have a good, solid, set intro for these things, so I think we'll just play it by ear every time and see what happens.
Yeah,
This is
be fun.
a Malazan read through podcast, and I realized in our previous two episodes we have neglected to say what exactly parts we're covering at the beginning.
Oh yeah,
Uh, but we are
great mistake.
covering Gardens of the Moon chapters 8 through 10 today, which is also the subbook 3 in Gardens of the Moon called The Mission. So we'll just be kind of reading a summary of what happens and then giving our thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
How's your confusion level kind of
Not
before we
that
go
bad.
into things?
Like honestly, like this past bit, I was thinking about. I was like, I don't feel that confused. I think it was like the what was it book two,
Yeah.
Darujistan. I think that one got a bit harder just because there's like so many names and just like it just kind of moved quick, and so it just felt hard to keep up. But this past bit, I've been like, I'm like it introduces more characters, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. And so, like, I mean, there's just some elements there, like, oh, what's that? But I mean, it's not like end of the world, like I'm completely lost. So it's not too bad.
Yeah. Alrighty. With that, I think I'll just go into the summary for chapter 8. Chapter 8. Whiskey Jack sits on the shore of Lake Azure. I'm still not sure how to pronounce that. I don't know if it's Azure or Azure. A black Moranth approaches with Kalam. The assassin reports that munitions have been successfully delivered to the squad. Whiskey Jack thought that munitions were scarce, but the Moranths say that help will always be available for him and calls him the bird that steals. He has the squad gather and says that they won't be mining the city gates as planned, as it will get them all killed. They'll sail into the harbor on a fishing boat, and Sari surprises everyone when she says that she can fish. Quick Ben tracks Hairlock through the Warrens to the spar of Andy. The puppet has been driven insane by chaos and brags about his powers, but Quick reveals that he's been here before. Tattersail is fevered after the Hound Gear's attack, and both are surprised that Piran's sword was able to do damage to it. Tayshran was unable to get any information about the attack, but he actively hunts Hairlock, and he knows that the bridge burners are involved. Quick Ben kicks Hairlock off the spar of Andy. The squad is somber after Whiskey Jack lays out his plan. Quick Ben suggests something to him and Kalam that leaves them shaken. Whiskey Jack tells Sari to take Fiddler and make a mast for a sail. He orders Trots, who had been the only one trying to get the boat in the water, to sit in the stern and relax while the rest of the squad does the work. All right, let's go into that first section. Whiskey Jack is sitting on the shore of the lake, and Kalam and Moranth appear and they talk for a bit.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or anything on that section?
Well, I was thinking it was a bit interesting, like the Moranth, like how much they kind of like got the feeling they weren't all like buddy buddy with the Empire. They're more like we like Whiskey Jack type of thing. And so that makes me wonder what he has done to like get them in that way, which I don't know. I just thought was super interesting. That's like that he's, oh, well, we need supplies. And they're like, hey, don't worry. We got you, bud. Help is always here when you need it.
Yeah, we got you, bird that steals.
Yep. Yeah. He even has like a nickname from them, which I thought was pretty cool.
What did you think about us learning exactly how many citizens of Pale they killed? 18,739, one for each Moranth that was killed during their conflicts with the city.
Kind of wild. I didn't even remember that part. But yeah, that's a lot of people. Because I mean, Pale, geez, like that intro when they talk about that, like Tayshran and Rake, just like their magic kind of back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
It's just wild the amount of damage they did.
Yeah, and then after all of that, you send in these bug armor soldier people, and they just are killing 18,000 people at random.
They're just going through wiping everyone out.
Yep.
It's just genocide, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it
Not
was part
genocide.
of some background. The reason that the Moranth are not like buddy buddies is because they're just under contract with
Oh,
the
so
Empire.
they're what they're called, sell swords, mercenaries in a way.
They're kind of they're their own race and their own people that
Hmm.
have like a whole culture and area of the continent.
That's right. Yeah.
They're in Cloud Forest on the map in the front. But yeah, the Malazans found them and really liked their munitions, and so they made a treaty or a deal with them, and them getting to
Yeah.
kill that many people in Pale was part of their deal with the Empire.
Kind of wild. Yeah, I didn't realize that contract.
I'm pretty sure it's been brought up. I'm not spoiling anything for you, I
No,
think.
I don't think so.
And if I am, I don't think it's not something major that you need to keep secret for a big twist in the future. So
Yeah, I mean that just makes more sense, I guess then. So like the Morant, they don't really like the other people on this continent then.
no,
That makes sense.
they've been very isolationist,
So that makes sense why they just want to go in.
and no one has ever seen one out of their armor.
Oh. So but they're not like just a walking bug, are they? They like use bug armor. Like that's kind of how I imagine it. Like they're a humanoid or type of human person, but then they use like the armor from bugs.
As far as I know, they are not bug people. They are some kind of humanoid. I don't believe that they are human though.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. With
But
like how they speak as well.
yeah, their language is like clicks and buzzes and stuff.
So, I mean, that's pretty cool. But they kind of remind me of like Vikings or like a kind of a barbarian in a sense.
Yeah, a
That
little bit.
like they're just like we're gonna keep to ourselves and we don't want to deal with anyone else.
And they have different clans, and each one is a color.
Oh, that's right.
I think the claw that Perron meets on the docks earlier in the book explains that each one has a color. Each clan has kind of a different job in their society, and they wear the color of armor that they belong to, so that no one gets
They know.
confused.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's see here. And then Whiskey Jack explains the plan to the squad. They thought that they were going to mine the city's gates, and Whiskey Jack says, screw that.
Psych.
We're going to do our own thing because this mission is designed to get us killed. So let's not die. Yeah. And then he tells them that they're going to fish. And Sari's like, I can fish.
I know. I thought that was so funny. They're just like, what?
Since when? You said you fished a long time ago. You're like 16.
I know. It's like, it's so weird. Because everyone's just always like, what the, why is this a thing? Why are you? Because it's like, yeah, I
Um,
can fish. And they're just like, well, as well, isn't it like Whiskey Jack was like, hey, you like, it was like Kalam and Quick Ben or whoever. He's like, you two are going to go sorry ahead of us or something. They're like, we're going to go sorry or
oh,
something.
yeah.
Trying to remember who that
Let's
was.
see. Oh, where is that? Yep. Two objectives, two teams. Kalam will lead one, and with him will be Quick Ben. And sorry, I'll lead the other
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't think we see any reaction to it, but I don't think that they'd be too happy about that.
No, I didn't think they would be. I just thought, yeah, I remember that because I was just like, oh, you're stuck with the ghost girl, the random whatever.
She's just an emo teenager.
Yeah, nothing crazy.
I mean,
She's just, I mean, when he kind of just appears by you and then infects you or possesses you, it's like, I don't know if music was the thing, but
what, you don't think she has Spotify listening to My Chemical Romance?
no, she seems more like choose a cassette or something or a CD, maybe YouTube music. Yeah, because I mean, she lives out on the beach or like the shoreline and kind of like a poor fishing village. So I don't know if Spotify's be too much for her. I think she pirated it all. Nothing against that. I'm just saying the economic situations. I think she's worrying about the twine more than how am I gonna listen to Spotify.
How am I going to listen to Linkin Park tonight?
Yeah, she's like, I will listen to that 15-second ad.
There you go. Anything else about that section?
No, not too much. No, I don't think there's anything else.
If there was a section in this chapter that was going to confuse you, it would be this one. Quick Ben tracking Hairlock.
Oh yeah,
Quick Ben tracks Hairlock through the Warrens to the spar of Van D. Before he does that, he puts some sticks in the ground, wraps some string around them, and then calls out for Hairlock, and one of them bends towards him, and then he like kind of travels through the Warrens to find Hairlock.
yeah, because they're like it was like a kind of like a pyramid looking thing, right? Yeah. No, that was no. I thought it was so weird. I thought it was funny though, just because like this is the because yeah, I just found it. It's he's like Quickman asked, "This is the spar of Andy, isn't it?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, how does it feel just to be here? Isn't it crazy or something? And
Yeah.
Harlock's like, no, I got this. You don't know anything. And then he's just like, no, I've been here before. He's
Yeah.
like, I think I know more than you do. I thought that was such a funny interaction because Harold, he's just going crazy. He's just
Uh-huh.
going off the rails. Little puppet man, Pinocchio.
Yeah, he's going insane. Hairlock tells Quick Ben about the attack on Tattersail, And Quick Ben kind of gets hung up on the fact that Perron stabbed the hound with his sword because that shouldn't have worked, he thinks.
Oh yeah, that's right. I noticed a lot of people kept bringing that up. I mean, what we see a bit later on, I think, is the explanation is because he's like now a servant of Open or something.
Yeah, just a pawn.
Yeah, because his sword's name is Chance, which I thought
Mm-hmm.
was kind of fun.
Yeah, which he got 3 years ago and
So
just named it that.
by chance, he has all of it.
Yep, by chance. By chance, he just happens to have a sword named Chance that just happens to be able to hurt a Hound of Shadow.
Yep.
I don't know that there's anything else about that section. Hairlock kind of seems to forget the Quick Ben is there for a little bit and just goes off on an insane ramble.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. That whole airlock is just crazy. Just more and more crazy every single time. Because I mean, he like pops up later on a couple times, like not mentioned, but like we see him later in this section.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really blame him. I don't know what I would do if my soul was transferred into a wooden puppet right before I died of being chopped in half.
It's like he just keeps disappearing through these warrens, which I think is kind of crazy because I'm like, what is he trying to do? I can't think if there's anything else here except well, they keep talking about Tatron a little bit.
Yeah, that he could not get any information because Tattersail went into like deep sleep slash coma state after the attack. But he knows about Hairlock and he knows the bridge burners are involved. And then I love that he tells Hairlock pursue Tatron's plans, and then he just boots him off the rock. I don't know. I imagine him charging up like it's a corner kick in soccer.
Get out of here. Be gone.
Uh-huh. Oh, and then I included the last section just because it's super funny that the entire squad is just hanging back while Trots tries to pull the boat into the water himself.
Oh, I know.
But my favorite part is that Whiskey Jack tells Trots, get in the boat. Everyone else get to work. And then he turns to Quick Ben and Kalam like, what are you two grinning about? Get over there.
He's like, you're helping too. This is everyone involved now. Like just kicks up his feet and starts relaxing the boat. Like, all right, I guess, yeah. That was a fun scene.
Yeah, the humor in Malazan, it gets better. It's one of the reasons why I don't think this series is grimdark, because there's so much humor and lightness in it as well.
Yeah, it's just a fantastic story. That's what it
Exactly.
is.
I don't know that there's anything else about that chapter, but if you're ready, we can get into the really meaty chapter, which is chapter 9.
That took me a minute to get through.
And there's a lot that happens.
I know.
In this chapter.
There's just so much because finally, yeah, I don't know. Well, you can do your little summary and then we'll talk, I guess.
It's not so little of a summary this time because it's a chunky chapter with a lot. Anyways, chapter 9. Talk the Younger rides across the Rivi plain to rendezvous with Adjunct Lorn. He comes across the site of a skirmish between Barghast and Malazan soldiers. The Barghast mage was killed by a sword thrust. Lorn and her 2 surviving Marines make a stand next to a hill as the Barghast charge. They manage to kill a few of them before both Marines are killed. Lorn's shoulder is dislocated from hitting the ground, and as she's about to die to the Barghast standing above her, Onos Tulan makes one of the most badass entrances in any book ever by appearing from the ground and spearing the Barghast with his sword from the groin up and out through his neck. He is an undead, emaciated warrior that is 300,000-ish years old. Talk also arrives and kills the last 2 warriors. Through his and Lorn's conversation, it is revealed that she has a sword made of Otaterol, an ore that can kill magic and mages, and that Lorn knew Talk's father, Talk the Elder, who has been missing since the old Emperor's death. They mount up and start the ride to Pale. Perron has been taking care of Tattersail during her fever. She wakes up and they share information, including that his sword is named Chance. She persuades Perron to stay to protect her from Hairlock. Talk tells the adjunct that the army is unhappy because of the shifts in organization and rumors that the Empire is trying to get rid of the bridge burners. Lorn speaks with Dujek, and they discuss the culling of the nobility, the new recruits Dujek will receive next year, battle tactics, and Tattersail. Tatron joins them and blames Dujek for the fire that conveniently burned all the census records of the nobility. Dujek leaves and Lorn reprimands Tatron for driving Dujek away. The general is 100% loyal to the Empire, and they do not want him for an enemy. When Lorn is alone, she reflects on the horrible night that she had 9 years ago in the Mouse. Tattersail, Lorn, Talk, Tatron, and Dujek attend a dinner together. Tattersail is last to arrive, and Lorn confronts her about the night in the Mouse. Tattersail was sent to quell the riots in that part of the city against Lysine's short-lived edict against sorcery and were indiscriminate. The day after, Lorn was sent to the Claw to begin her training, and the mouse was burned. Lorn's family died in prison afterwards. Dujek and Taishran talk Lorn out of executing Tattersail by appealing to the Adjunct, and her training takes over. During the first course, Tattersail tells an altered version of the events leading up to and concerning the Hound's attack. Talk supports her in her lie because of all that the mage cadre has done for the army. Tattersail returns to her room and speaks with Perron. He was to take command of Whiskey Jack's squad so Lorn could find him and kill Sari, and likely the rest of the squad as well. Tattersail will leave to find the squad while Perron stays in Pale. Their sexual attraction comes to a head and they go to the bedroom together. Lorn speaks with Tool about the Eyemass as she leaves Pale for her mission. He reveals that he is his clan's only survivor from the war against Jaggert to the west of Seven Cities. The Emperor and Dancer reawakened the Talon Eyemass when Kellanved sat on the first throne. Crone flies north to Black Dog Forest to meet with Caladan Brood. Yeah, I think that's the longest chapter summary that we've had so far.
I was gonna say that seemed really short. I don't know why.
Yeah, there's nothing that goes on in this chapter.
Nothing important. Are you kidding me?
It's just people sitting around talking. Come on.
No. It was like a scene in Dune, like the dinner scene. Just nothing happens.
The dinner scene is very infamous.
I thought it was enjoyable. I remember reading that and I was like, okay, that was fun. I like that.
It's infamous for being one of the best scenes in Gardens of the Moon. But we have a while to get there, so we have Talk the Younger, who I don't know if you remember, he's the one that escorted Perron when he first got to Pale.
Okay. Yeah, because I was like, I swear, I'm like, where'd he come from again? I was trying to remember where he was mentioned, but yeah, now I remember.
Yeah, so he's the last Claw left alive in Dujek's army.
Because they were all killed by Rake.
Yeah, right? Lots of them were, and just general course of battle and stuff.
Yeah, but he's missing his eye.
Yeah, he lost his eye because to a burning rock that fell from Moonspawn during the siege.
It's wild.
But he's riding out onto the plain to meet up with Lorn and bring her into the city. And he comes across a skirmish where a bunch of people died. And then we jump to Lorn and the Marines kind of making their last stand. Any thoughts about the battle? Or
I don't know. Nothing special happened. You can just gloss over it. Just kidding.
No, nothing special.
No, I thought it was cool. Like, I mean, you feel bad for the Marines just because it's like, oh, they just die. But like, I don't know. I was a little confused because what are they called? Barghast?
Barghast, yeah.
Yeah. They're like just a native group of the continent that are opposed against the Empire, right? And they're just like a kind of scouting team.
I would say that they're closer to the traditional barbarian race.
Okay.
Than the Moranths. They're on the eastern part of the continent in mountain ranges over there.
But they're like they live in the fields, from my understanding.
So let me gather my thoughts to give you a good answer. So the Barghast are on the eastern side of the continent, mainly in the mountains and things. And then the place where all of this is happening, like where the battle took place, is the Rivi Plain, which is called that because the Rivi are a nomadic herds people that live on the plain.
Okay, that's the people I'm thinking of then.
Yeah, and we get it in Talk's perspective, but the Rivi are not a warlike people, but the Malazans have kind of forced their hand and they're now fighting against the Empire with Caladan Brood.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at the map, so I'm seeing now more of how it's laid out. Oh, there's the plateau. I was trying to remember where that plateau was.
Yep. So it's just a gigantic plain. Think United States Great Plains with just fields of grass.
And it's just like complete. It's like a hue of mountains around them.
Yeah,
coming from the south. Okay, yeah. No, I felt bad for the Marines because I always feel bad for the helper soldiers defending a powerful person. I guess I don't know. You think they'd be better when one die, but. No, I just thought it was crazy because all of a sudden, like this 300,000-year-old being pops out of the ground, and I'm like, "What? Where? How?"
Yeah, grabs the last dude's ankle, shatters it, and sticks his sword up, and just impales the dude on his gigantic flintstone sword.
I know, it was wild. And then the adjunct is like, "Where were you?" Now you show up.
Yep.
And I was like, wait. You know this 300,000-year-old being? And you're just like, where were you? Why aren't you on time?
So I don't think they've actually met before, as we see a little bit later in the next chapter. Like she's asking him a bunch of questions, but I think she was just expecting to have met him
By
a
now, yeah.
while ago. Yeah.
Yeah. That I guess that makes more sense, yeah.
What do you think was a more badass intro, Anamanda Rake or Onos Tulan popping out of the ground?
I don't know. That's pretty close. Commander Rake, I just think he's just so freaking cool. Just because like everyone's like, we don't want to mess with him. He's too powerful. Like he just gets stuff done. But then this 300,000-year-old thing just pops out. I'm like, just kills a guy that way. I'm like, I don't know. I'd say it's a pretty close second. Like they're neck and neck, but I still think yeah, Commander Rake's cooler. But still, 300,000-year-old guy. And then he's like starting to explain. He's like, well, I'm sort of the last of my race. We were kind of killed off in this other war that we were summoned into by the sound of it. And I was like, you can die? You're 300,000 years old.
We'll get more into that in the next chapter. You know that a moment works when this is my fourth time reading it and it gets to me just as much every time about how cool it is.
Yeah. No, it's so cool.
Yeah, and then we find out from Talk and Lorn talking that she has a sword made of Otaterol, which is
It's the
something that
magical metal.
it
Magical
negates
metal
magic,
of the series.
helps her kill mages.
So
Yeah.
the negating magic. This is what I was wondering though. It's because I mean, it's they talk about it a little later on during like the dinner scene, like because everyone knows kind of about it and how powerful it is, like facing a mage. But is it like it sets up like an aura of like magic can't touch you around it, or is it like it just kind of like a magnet towards magic drawing it in? Like,
So I will raffle that,
oh dang it!
I think.
No, no, no.
Yeah, I think I'll raffle that. That's gonna be. I think that's actually one of the few hard raffos that I've given you so far.
Yeah,
But
dang it.
lots of my others have been non-answers, so those don't really count. But
Because yeah, I was wondering about it because they just keep talking about it and they like to keep it a secret because if you know about it, everyone's like, oh, never mind.
yeah, anything else about the battle scene? I mean, Talk kills two people with one eye from
Oh, I
horseback
know.
with a bow. That's pretty
That was pretty epic as well.
impressive. And it's a newly one-eyed dude too. It's not like he's had this for his whole life and has just learned how to
Yeah, because he
shoot
talks
without
about
it.
how he keeps itching at it,
Mm-hmm.
like it's like it keeps bugging him. And I'm like, oh, glad I didn't lose an eye that way. That would be
It's
annoying.
yeah, it's just a mosquito bite that you can't get rid of.
Yeah.
You can't help yourself from itching it. That's all it is. We have a super small scene. Tattersail wakes up
But,
and they share what they know with each other. That's where we learn that his sword is named Chance and that he's probably a tool of Opon.
well, isn't this the chapter where they like start talking and like they like because she's I don't know, I thought if this is the part I'm thinking of, this is where she's like, wait, you're working for the adjunct? Because he's like, she's here, and she's like, what? And so she's
Oh
kind of
yeah.
annoyed because she's been talking to him, like telling him everything.
Oh, I think that might be after the dinner.
Or is that after the dinner?
Yeah, I think that's after the dinner.
Oh, because yeah, that's right. This is the part where she talks about the coin, and he's like, a coin? He's like, oh no. So let's talk about Opon a little bit,
Yeah,
like what they know.
it's a pretty small scene just to show
Yeah,
that she's awake and she tells him that Hairlock is actually not moved against her, not because of her, but because of him and the sword that
yeah.
he has. He's afraid of that. And then we just kind of get this. Lorne just moves from conversation to conversation in the next section. She's talking with Talk as they go into the city. Then she talks with Dujek as they walk to headquarters. And then she
Yep.
talks with Tashran.
Which the vibe I got is she likes Dujek, but like he's antiquated or something is the feeling that she gives. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Yeah, so I'd say that's a little wrong. And we can just go over whatever you want in this section, but
yeah.
basically Tashran has taken over the logistical stuff in Pale, which she's not supposed to. That's supposed to be up to Dujek.
Oh
And
yeah,
he's
because she was
like,
very annoyed with Tayshran, like, what are you doing?
yeah, so he's like infringing on Dujek's turf. And Lorne tells Tashran that questioning Dujek's loyalty to the Empire might be the thing that drives him out. Because what Lacina's been doing over the last, I think she's been ruling for 9 years, is she's slowly gotten
Yeah.
rid of all of the old guard, which are the ones that were loyal to Emperor Kellenved. And Dujek is one of the last ones of those. And so Tashran thought that they wanted to drive him out
Get
as
rid of him.
well. But Lorn tells him no, he's loyal to the Empire. He's not going to mutiny unless we push him to it. And if we do that, then we're the traitors, not him. So
Yeah.
Dujek is like the best general and the best military mind that the military has left.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, I remember when she's going over the plans with him and he's like starting to change some things and like you can tell she's like, oh my gosh, this guy's a genius.
Yeah, well, she even says like he just made an intuitive leap in logic, and
Yeah.
I'm never going to be able to get there. So sure, you can get what you want.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, I mean, go ahead. She's like, you know what you're doing far more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think the part where I guess I got that vibe from was when she's talking about like he has a whole army behind him, so like don't push him. Like now is what I got. Like I thought she was like saying like not now. Like we need him to do his job and then we can get rid of him type of thing.
Oh,
I guess
yeah.
that's what I was thinking of.
What she's saying there is that Dujek has.
He
I
has
don't
the whole
remember if
army
they
loyal
say.
to him.
Yeah, that they're more loyal to him than they are to the Empire, and so if he left, they would all follow him, and
Yeah.
then potentially he could use that army and fight against the Empire on the continent and just undo all their work.
Yeah. They'd completely lose everything. They'd be like, and the Empress would be very upset.
Yeah, because the I don't think they ever say exactly how long, but the campaign here on Genabacchus has been going on for a long time.
Sounds like it.
Because when they're discussing the battle tactics, Lauren is like, "Why would you do that?" And Dujek says, "Does Lysine want this war won in her lifetime?"
Yeah, because it's a very slow progress. I mean, you're fighting on a completely different continent than your home one. Like the amount of travel, by the sound of it, has been just wild.
And it's a massive continent, and they started in the north where there's a bunch of cities.
And they're just now getting to like the south. They finally took Pale.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like sounding like it's taking a while.
Yeah, and as she's talking with Dujek, Tayshrin comes in and blames Dujek for all of the census records burning. And
Oh
Dujek's
yeah,
like, "Oh, I don't know what happened. You can use all of my staff." And Tayshrin's like, "I don't need any more spies around me than you already have."
I know. Tayshrin's like just so weirdly paranoid about everything. He
Well,
bugs.
yeah, so because what they had mentioned when they were walking in, Dujek mentions to Lorne is that they were going to kill 9 out of 10 of the nobility.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't know. Dujek may let the Moranth into the city to slaughter 18,000 people, but that's excessive.
Yeah. He's like, we're not going to kill these nobility. He's like, that's unnecessary. These public executions, because he wants it because the empire. What talks about a strategy they have is
Yeah.
they do public executions of the nobility, and that helps with recruitment levels and stuff, which I thought was an
Uh-huh.
interesting tactic that they used. But I mean, I guess it's like join us or you're like your leaders, like it's game over.
Yeah.
I guess it's effective.
I mean, as we see later from Tattersall's point of view, it's not that Dujek doesn't let the executions happen. He just doesn't want 90% of the
Yeah.
nobility to die. Because if you think about it, you probably still need some of those people in power positions to stay and help run things.
Yeah, because I mean, you come and take over this city. I mean, you've taken out 18,000 people. So, I mean, that's already a huge mess you have to deal with. But still, it's like all that management and finances and just like knowing the area. You might want to keep some of the people that know the area. And so you're not learning from scratch again.
I wonder if anyone has ever estimated what the population of Pale was. I'm gonna look that up because I wonder how big of a chunk the 18,000 people was.
Because when you mentioned that, I was like, that's a lot of people. Reminds me of stuff like out of the Bible where it's like, and they killed 10,000 or something. You're like, wait. There's that many people living there.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't find anything on Pale. I could find something on Darudistan. It's mentioned later in the book. But if you don't care about me spoiling what the population of Darudistan is, I can tell you.
What's the population in Darudistan then? If we're going to get to it, but
yeah, we'll get to it. But during festivals, it said that it swells to 300,000 people.
that's pretty substantial. It's a lot of people. So I mean, if Pale is like as much of a massive city as it was, like Animander Rake was like there defending it, then I mean it'd probably be 150, 200,000, I would imagine.
Something like that, probably.
Because if you think about it, like locally, people coming in for a festival in Darujistan, it'd probably be like 100,000 people outside the city coming in,
Yeah.
maybe. So
Yeah, so
yeah.
it's not like they're killing half the city, but they're not.
They
They're not
still
leaving.
need some people.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't have an empire without people.
right? You can't have an expansionist colonialist empire if you kill all the people.
Because at that point, it's just like, are you just trying to be the only people left then? Like, you want to rule, right?
Yep. Okay, and then we have the dinner scene.
Yes. I love a good old fashioned dinner
What
scene.
what are your thoughts on Tattersail and Lorne?
I thought legit like Tattersail was going to be like thrown into prison or something, or like at the minimum. I thought it was going to be like kind of at the end of the road, she gets locked up or something happens to her. That whole interaction. Because I mean, I was a little confused. I was like, did Tattersail then do it to like kill their family, I guess? Because of like the scene earlier from the Adjunct Lorn when they're like, yeah, and Tattersail's here and she's like, why have I heard that name? She's thinking back and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I remember why now.
Yeah, so Tattersail did not directly kill her family, but
Yeah,
she kind of holds her responsible.
accountable. Yeah.
Yeah, which just I always forget until I reach this scene that Lorne is like 20.
He's that young? I thought she was like at least 30 or 40 or something for some reason.
No, she's like early 20s at the oldest. She was still a child 9 years ago when that happened.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's right. Man, this timeline, I still keep forgetting.
So what happened? This goes back to the prologue of the book.
Because Mouse, that was the city, that was the area they're watching be burned
Yeah,
from.
the mouse quarter is where Piran and Whiskey Jack were watching. And Tattersail, with her mages that she was in charge of, got sent down there to quell the riots.
I thought they banned sorcery because they talked about that. So I was a little confused. That is what I was
So
confused on.
yeah, so as what I understand, it was a ban on sorcery in Malaz City
Okay.
because Malaz City has a lot of witches and warlocks and stuff like that. So she tried to ban it in the city, but of
Okay.
course not for imperial use.
No, of
But
course not. Why
Tattersail
would
was
you?
sent down there to help contain the riots, and things got out of hand. And I think they accidentally or on purpose burned and killed a lot of citizens.
That would make sense. Because then, well, I think Tattersail didn't like we see a bit later, but like she regretted and moved to like retired from that group to go to another one.
Yeah, she left the.
Was
I'm still a little
I think
confused
she
on this. She
wasn't she
left like
left
the
the second?
command. Yeah, she left like her command
Yeah,
in that and went to another posting, I think is what happened.
yeah. Because I mean, maybe I'm getting these numbers confused, but I think she like went from the second to the fifth and then came back later on. Because
Yeah, I think
Dujek came in charge, and so she came back because of him.
yeah, I think that's what happened.
Yeah, which I mean, I thought was interesting because I think it shows more of just like the. I mean, we do see her get fired up when she like is like, "Fine, I'll duel you." Like let's fight then if that's what you're gonna, if that's what you want. But like, she's still
Mm-hmm.
more of that timid, like kind of holds back, I guess. Like she doesn't necessarily want to
Mm-hmm.
be a high, powerful, destructive mage or witch.
Yeah, which kind of explains what you were wondering earlier about her, like timid and held
Mhm.
back personality. Yeah, but then the day after that happens, Lauren was taken for claw training, which
Yeah.
probably isn't good. And her family died in prison after that.
And didn't she find them in prison? Is what happened? Like she saw
No,
them, or she
no,
just heard about
so
it?
yeah, so she didn't know what happened to her family for a little bit. And then she found out that everyone that had been taken prisoner or had participated in the riots was thrown into like, I get the impression it was like a pit or a cave that was just like disease ridden and stuff. And her parents and brother
Yeah,
died.
because it sounded like in the caves or something. She referenced it like that, so
Mm-hmm.
it was like a very grim, dismal situation.
Yeah, Dujek and Tashrin kind of talk her out of it. I love that we get it from Talk's point of view because he knows the least about what's going on. So
I know
we
it's so funny.
so we get it from his perspective, but he describes it as almost Lorne and the adjunct being two different people, and the adjunct just pushes Lorne down. And I think she was basically brainwashed, or like her mental conditioning from her claw training takes over.
Yeah, like remember who you are, like remember your purpose. You're the voice of the Empress type thing. Like you like put your personal matters aside.
Yeah, and she just goes very cold and remote for the rest of the meeting.
But the dinner scene though was interesting. Like speaking of talk being the perspective, because that's where we see like Tattersail basically lie to the most powerful people.
Uh
Like,
huh.
I don't know. I guess this happened. Like, that's my suspicion. Like, but it's like a good enough, like plausible suspicion that even Tation's like, they're like, so do you know anything about it? He's like, yeah, that sounds accurate. And then like, but Talk is reading through all this, and they're like, "Do you think she's lying?" He's like, "No, no, 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 she's not lying. This seems pretty accurate, straightforward."
Yeah, I love the reason he does it too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think Tattersail was. I think the one thing in there that she wasn't lying about was that she has like high level wards around her room.
and
Because I
that
think
she's
was
highly adept, right? Because
yeah,
she mentioned that as well.
yeah, she is very adept at the deck of dragons, which Tashfrin knows because he had her do a reading for him earlier.
Yeah,
So
but as well, she mentions it, and then Tayshian's like, "You have that ward?" Like they're kind of like, "Whoa,
yeah, Tashfrin's like, since when?
how?" I thought that was funny because just like you just get a sense like she's powerful and she knows her stuff, but like she's just holding back so much, I guess.
Uh-huh. And then Tattersail goes back to her room.
Yep.
They kind of together they realize what Lorne's mission was. Paran is so ignorant here.
Oh, I know.
Like the Adjunct gave me command of Whiskey Jack's squad because I was a good soldier. This is a reward. And Tattersail's like, I think they're trying to kill them.
Yeah. But then, oh, maybe that's later on that they reference that. I can't remember. Yeah,
Reference
because
what?
well, it was a Piran and his connection to Lorne or something.
Oh yeah, I think that is here.
Is that there? Because he doesn't fully realize that like magical connection, I guess, that they
Yeah.
have. And Tattersail's like, "What do you mean? Like, how do you how do you not know?"
But Tattersail does mention that when he died
It's
and came back
broken
to life, it was severed. Yeah.
because now he's Open's pawn.
Mm-hmm. And then Tattersail's like, I'm exhausted. And Pron's like, how exhausted?
And scene it just goes
And
to fades
scene.
to black.
Yep, they go to the bedroom.
But what was funny is
Yeah.
kind of speaking of that, even Talk like thought the same thing like before the dinner. He sees her and he's like, some people would find her appealing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like he's like, I could see it.
just a 200+ year old sorceress and a 20-year-old guy.
I mean, what was the Kalat was his name?
Khaled,
That died?
yeah.
Kalat, yeah. So I mean, she's kind of lonely now. So I guess
Yeah.
Ron will be the new guy.
I mean, as we know from the next chapter, may not last super long. Okay, and then we get Lorne riding out of the city. And the first thing that I have to, before we get into all the lore stuff, the first thing that I have to bring up is I love Tool just pops up right next to her and her horse. And she's like, I'd appreciate it if you announced your arrival from a distance. And he's like, okay. And then he appears 100 yards ahead.
I know. I thought that was funny because he's just like, okay, yeah, you're 300,000 years old. It's like, yeah, sure, whatever.
And then we get some more lore about the IMAS. So, any notes or questions on this that you have?
No, well, just it was they fought the Barghast, right? Or the Jarghast?
The Jagut,
The Jagut.
Jaghut. Yeah.
But that was on the same continent then. Like, because I mean, it was a massive army with the leader, but then there are different clans of them as well on top of that.
Yes. So we've gotten mention of this before, actually. Yeah, because we've gotten mention of the IMAS just disappearing into the western part of Seven Cities. So Seven Cities is a continent.
Oh, okay.
It's the same continent that Piran asks Whiskey Jack about in the prologue about Dasimul Tor and stuff like that. So the IMAS disappeared into the western part of the continent, and no one knew why for a long time. And Tool tells Lorne here it's because they found some Jagat over there, and so they all went to kill them.
So I wasn't too clear on who the Jagger are. Is that like a Raffo thing?
That is we have not met a Jagat yet. They are just another ancient race.
Okay, that they've been. Does it mention the creation of them like at all? Like I thought I mentioned briefly, like or maybe it was like he talked about their leader, but I don't remember.
Let me see here. So it's odd talking with you about this stuff because everything lore wise is just
Yeah.
It's influenced by everything else that I know. So I'm trying to give you like the truncated version of the stuff that only you know.
You're like, because there's this other civilization on this continent.
So she decides to call him Tool. And he's like, sure, that's fine. So the adjutant says, why were you selected to accompany me? And Tool says, in the lands west and north of Seven Cities, I alone among my clan survived the 28th Jagat War. And she said, I thought those wars numbered 27 when your legions left us after conquering Seven Cities and you marched into the wastelands. And he says, our bone casters, aka they're like mages, they're magic users, sensed an enclave of surviving Jagut. Our commander determined that we exterminate them. Thus we did, which explains your decimated numbers upon returning.
That's right. Okay. I think then I was thinking of creators. think the Bonecasters, I got that confused with like more of like a creation group
Oh yeah,
of them. But I mean, they're mages. That makes way more
yeah.
sense now.
The Bonecasters are the IMAS equivalent of. They're just their magic users.
Okay, that makes sense.
And not Talk. Tool was the only
Mhm.
one to survive from his clan, so that's why he was sent to help her with her mission.
But who sent him? Do we know?
I believe he was sent by the Empress.
So
Talon
the Empress
IMAS.
knows them. She's like kind of in league.
And it explains here that Kellenved, the old emperor, reawakened them when he sat on the first throne,
That's right. Yeah,
which
I remember that.
I will not explain more about that. But
What? Is that another Raffo?
yes, it is.
All these
Um,
Raffos.
oh, and she says, "Where is this first throne, Tool?" And he says, "Upon the emperor's death, the Logros Imas gathered minds, a rare thing that was done before the diaspora, and a binding resulted. Adjunct, the answer to your question is within this binding. I cannot satisfy you."
Gotcha.
And then she thinks about, so when the Talon Imas first arrived, or they first learned about them, they numbered 19,000, and they were now believed to number about 14,000.
So a substantial enough drop.
Yeah, and she says the majority of those losses had occurred beyond the Empire's borders in this last Jagu.
Because they left the Empire to go hunt down this
Yep.
other group.
And
And
they left without telling anybody. No one knew where they went.
because I mean, when you're an ancient race fighting another ancient race, kind of doesn't matter.
And when you're 300,000 years old and you've probably seen literally thousands of empires come and go,
It's like we're leaving.
you probably don't care too much about
Yeah.
conflicts except your own. Okay, just a last little scene. We see Crone flying to meet with Caladan Brood, which we will see in the next chapter. So I don't know that there needs to be anything more about that.
Nope. I think we're good.
Okay, if you're ready, we can go into chapter 10.
Of course. Let's go and let's dive into it. Last one.
Chapter 10. Talk goes to an inn for a mysterious meeting. Perron is real dramatic and announces his arrival by sending a servant to repeat Talk's statement about being out of depth. They decide to leave and try to catch up to Tattersail so that they can contact Whiskey Jack before Lorn does. Tattersail travels by Warren to Pale, but the Talon Imas's effect is making it difficult. She leaves her Warren and comes out very close to Bellerdan, who was sent by Tatron to bring her back to Pale or kill her. She invokes Bellerdan's oath that they would speak again and asks what he was researching. He discovered the location of the prison of a jagged tyrant. Tattersail realizes that this is the adjunct's mission and begs to be let go, but Bellerdan gets ready to attack. Tattersail opens her warren in a giant conflagration of magic after spying her spell on Nightchill's remains. Lorn and Tool watch the conflagration, and Tool lists a warren being present that she has never heard of, Starvald Demelane. Crone visits Caladan Brood and informs him that a youth holds the coin and that Opon is fully in the game. Brood says that the coin bearer needs protection and rides off to meet with Kaz Devor after talking with his second in command, Kalor. Talk and Perron come upon the charred remains of Bellerdan and Tattersail. Talk discovers tracks of bones leading away from the burlap sack that contained Nightchill's remains. Perron leaves more determined than ever to stop the adjunct. Crone finds other great ravens as she travels south to Darujistan. There is a wooden puppet that has been traveling in and out of its warren as it kills them one by one. Crone makes to attack it, but is buffeted away. Lorn seems unconcerned by the display of magic on the plain, and to teach her a lesson, Tool stands over her the next morning with his sword held over her throat. She makes ready to leave and asks Tool what he's been thinking about, and he says, "I think of futility, Adjunct. Do all IMAS think about futility? No, few think at all. And why is that? Because, Adjunct, it is futile."
I love that last scene.
I had to throw that in there. That's one of my favorite comedy bits in the entire series.
I thought it was pretty good because he was just like, look, it doesn't matter to me.
I think he's being a little sarcastic here.
Yeah.
Like, you're thinking of futility. Do you guys think? Most of us don't. How come? It's futile.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
His you ready for this? His dry sense of humor, because he's a desiccated corpse man. There's a good joke for you.
I know, it was good. Part of me was just like, I don't want to laugh, but I do want to laugh.
Yeah. I never really thought this about the scene until this time reading it, but Perron was real dramatic, sending that person out to talk, to be like, this is a man who didn't understand that he was out of his depth, but now he does. And those are his words and yours. It's like, you could have just like walked out.
I know. It just made it easier.
Yeah. So they recognize each other. Talk says that he'll go with Piran, but only if like Talk says that he will help Piran, but only if he's allowed to go with him.
He's like, that's the deal. He's like, I go or nothing happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Talk's like, how are you planning on getting out of the city? And Piran's like, I was just kind of gonna do it.
Just gonna leave. I was just gonna take a horse and just figure it out. He's
Yeah.
like, oh, Peron, you don't know.
Yeah. So they try to catch up to Tattersail, and then we get the scene with Tattersail and Bellerdan.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting scene. Just because it's like, well, because it's like shows her in her warren, which I mean, those are always confusing.
Yep.
There's like no explanation ever. And because she's like it like starts to get a little more claustrophobic and she's like, I wish I had my deck of dragons to see what's going on or something. And because she like really left like real quick by the sound of it because
Yeah.
she doesn't have much. So she pops out and she sees him. She's like, crap.
I will tell you right now, the Talon IMAS, like having a field of magic deadening or whatever
Mhm.
around it, is a Guardians of the Moonism and doesn't appear again.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. That was probably something that was part of the world earlier and just didn't make it to the rest of the series. I'm not sure.
I was gonna say that's a pretty powerful effect to like affect those warrens and everything.
Yeah, because Lorne and Tool are like 8 miles to the east.
Yep.
But yeah, she Belladan's like, okay, you're gonna come with me, and she says, wait, you you swore that we would talk, so I want to do that right now.
He's like, okay, fine, let's talk. But like,
Um,
because he reveals then he found out a lot, right?
yeah, if you remember, Tattersail and Callet talked before the Battle of Pale about where Belladan and Nightchill have been, and they were sent. They mentioned that they were sent to like research some old dusty scrolls in a city.
And they found because it's the binding of something, but
Yeah, so he uncovered the location of the prison
that's right. It was the
of
prison
a
of
of a jagged tyrant,
okay.
which he says enslaved everything around in the area and ruled for like 3,000 years.
So he's a long living being, and they just imprisoned him.
Yeah, they imprisoned him in a magical prison, and other Jagged had to do it because
Um,
he was super powerful.
and are they trying to release him by the sound of it?
That's what Tattersail believes. Yeah,
Because by the sound of it, they're like, he's powerful, we want him, type of thing. And so that's why they found it out.
yeah. Tattersail. Let's see. There's a moment where she realizes. Yeah, so she says she thinks that's why Tool is with Lorn, and with Lorn's Otadriel sword that they're gonna
Mhm.
free the tyrant.
Which is strange because isn't it how do you say it? Tools kind?
The Talani Mass.
Talane Mass? Aren't they against that though? So are they trying to go kill the guy?
Raffo.
Because I assume this is going to come into effect near the end of the book or a large part of something.
Yeah, I'll raffle that. You're not gonna get anything more from me about that. But Tattersail believes that Lorn's mission is to free it.
But then she like chooses like because the thing she notices though after that conversation is like she's trying to figure out a way out because she can't use her warren.
Mm-hmm.
And so she just sees the bag. It's like that's
Yep.
my spell. And so she does something with the bag from what I saw, and that just like cliffhanger moment.
Yeah, because she realizes earlier that fully opening her warren would like destroy her. So
Yeah.
when Belladin attacks, she does that after looking at the bag. And then when Talk and Piran get there, Talk finds tracks of bone feet walking away from the bag.
So she's soul cast to a skeleton. Is what I
Mm.
assumed. I mean, that's what I guessed because I was like, Tattersail can't be dead. So
I will refer that.
I
I'm just
mean,
I'm just stating what we've seen so far.
yeah, no, I
And
know, I know.
and then when Crone was meeting with Kaladin Brood, she asks about the giant like magic conflagration, and I think Kaladin Brood says something about yeah, something new has been born. I don't think it belongs to anyone. I don't think it's powerful.
Because like everyone noticed it. Like it was a large enough fire thing because even Lauren and Tool see that, like they're aware of it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
And then like everyone else is like far away, they're like, whoa, what was that?
yeah. And Talk and Piran say that they were leagues away, but they could still feel the heat from it.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yep. Magic be powerful.
I don't know. It's so wild. And I like as reading this though, there's like maybe a little side tangent. Like I just keep thinking like how like classical magic this feels of like fire and stuff. And like I haven't read
Mm.
too much where that's involved because I mean I've read Lord of the Rings, but it's like even then their magic was still very limited. It was more like just standard medieval combat throughout the whole series. So this is like I feel like the first time I've read something with like this more traditional magic, which has
Yeah,
been
well,
kind of fun.
like you've already seen, magic just infuses absolutely everything
Yeah.
in this world.
Because Lauren, when she gets injured, she goes into the city, like backtracking a little. She mentions, like, I just need a standard healer because I can't have a magic healer because
Yeah,
of something to do with her powers.
yeah, magic doesn't work on me and hasn't worked on me in a while.
Because she's like an anti magic thing by the
Hmm.
sound of it.
Yeah, this is different from a lot of worlds where you've read Sanderson, so like Mistborn, people know that it exists, but it's kind of mysterious and only certain people use it.
And it's more like
And
it comes down to kind of more of a science at some points
yeah,
as well.
Lord of the Rings magic is fairly rare. Yeah, and here just everyone knows it exists. Anyone in the world can learn magic if they want
Yeah.
in Malazan. So
Which, I
yeah.
mean, the more I read about it, the more I'm like, she's 200 years old. How is
Hmm.
she a mage? Like, I just want to learn more about that system and hierarchy of mages and stuff, and like how the magic works, like how the magic operates on like kind of like as a society. But I assume there'll be some more explanations later on.
There will be some, yes. But I think the main thing that with Crone meeting with Caladan Brood, one, what did you think about the fact that she's both with Animander and Caladan Brood?
I don't know. I'm to be honest, I was a little confused on Kaladin Brood. Is he's the mercenary group up north?
Yeah, so he's not part of the Crimson Guard, which is the mercenary group, but he's
Oh,
like,
he works with them.
yeah, he's in command of them.
Okay, but who's he part? He's not. What group is he part of again? That's what I'm trying to remember.
He is not really a part of any group. He's known as the Warlord.
That's right. Okay.
He's just in charge of the armies that fight the Malazan Empire. So he and Animander Rake work together. He has command of most of Animander Rake's Tystandi. He commands the Rivi, the Barghast that are fighting the Malazans, the Crimson Guard.
Okay. Yeah, because in the like description of people, it just says the warlord opposing the Malazan armies in the
Yep.
North campaign. Because I mean, yeah, I mean, going back to a little bit, I was like, oh, she's kind of like, because she's like, because the way it sounds is Rake doesn't know she's doing it, and she keeps going to him, like giving him updates on stuff, like kind of working
Yeah.
both sides.
But kind of similar to Animander Rake, he has a massive weapon strapped to his back.
Yep,
Just a gigantic hammer.
it's pretty cool.
And she tells him that Opon is now involved and that there's a youth that holds the coin, and Caladan Brew determines that he needs to be protected.
Because she mentioned she's like, Animander Rake wants to kill him. He wants to get rid of Open because without Open, he's like full reign, does whatever he wants,
Mm-hmm.
type of thing, which I thought was interesting. But Kaladin Brood is like, no, we can't have him do that because he'll destroy like the city, like he'll level the city or something.
Yeah, Crone says that, like, oh, if he killed Opon, that would cause a ripple, and who knows what can happen in such ripples, or
Yep.
something along that line. Caladan Brood rides off to meet with Kaz Devor, who is the leader of the Crimson Guard, and he talks to second in command Kalor.
I don't remember too much that happened there. I mean, I just read it today,
Yeah, there's. I do love Caladan says, "Where's that damn horse of mine?" And Kalor says, "Probably
yeah,
cowering. Where it is, his legs become shorter and stubbier beneath your prodigious self."
it's getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah, you're too fat.
That was so funny. Yeah.
And then here's the section that you mentioned earlier with Hairlock shows up. He's not mentioned by name because Crone and her ravens don't know who he is, but
Because she finds because wasn't it while she was talking with Calden Bird, they're like someone keeps popping up in these warrants or something.
yeah, it's as she flies back to Drudistan over the plane, I think.
Yeah, because she finds the other ravens
Yeah.
and she's like, what's going on? And one of them's like, he makes a joke towards her and she's like, I like your humor.
Uh-huh.
She's like, I like good humor like that or something.
Uh-huh.
Which I thought was funny. Because I mean, because when I read that, I was like, okay, she has a sense of humor. Because
Mhm.
originally when we first meet her earlier on, she's like, I can't be bothered with these people. These these younger birds, like just ignores them all. But that was funny because then he's like, no, he died. And she's like, oh, okay.
Oh, fine. Okay.
Yeah,
You guys go back. I'll investigate. And she
yep.
does. And she's immediately just like, she withstands it, but Harlock just gives her a wave of magic. And she's like, what the heck is that?
It's like hitting her, and she's like, "That hurt." She's like, "My defensive stuff like helped, but at the same time, that hurt."
Yeah, I'm going to leave now.
Yeah, because she's like, "I'm out," and so he disappears again. So I'm like, that hairlock, it's just so wild, just keeps popping in and out. And I'm just like, what are you doing, you weirdo?
Raffo.
I know these Raffos.
Yeah. And then, Lorne and Tool, I guess, are close enough to see all of those blasts of magic against the Ravens and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Lorne acts very unconcerned and is just like, just let me go to sleep, dude. And then Tool just stands there all morning. And it
Oh
says
yeah,
that he shifts slightly right before dawn. And when she wakes up, he's just like holding his sword over her throat, like, you got to stay vigilant, lady.
wake up! You have one job.
And then we
That
get
the
the futility scene.
futility jokes, because that's the end, right? That's the end of the
Yeah, that's the end of our section for today.
sad.
So if you have anything else to bring up, any questions, any theories about where we're going?
Just trying to think, like some theories. So, I mean, thinking back to the Tool and his thing with what are they called? Stars the J, Jarbest,
The Jagut.
the Jagoot, the Jagoot. Like, I think that would become like super, like it's like like a strong, like powerful thing. So I think that would become a key point. Me and Amanda Ray, I bet he's gonna be fighting with the North a little bit at some point. Like maybe because Crone's gonna do that. Because she mentioned she's like, death is fine. She's like, I don't mind that. She's like, he can destroy some things. It's all right.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, I think something like that will happen, but I'm curious to see what the bridge burners do because I feel like we see him just enough to be like, okay, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And then it's like, psych. You'll find out later.
Yeah, I didn't realize this last week when we were recording, but you thought that the sub book, you thought that this book, The Mission, would be about the Bridge Burners mission. Turns
Yeah.
out not particularly, more Lorne's mission.
I'm curious to see what happens to Perron because I mean, now that he, by the sound of it, is opens like pawn and everything. Like I'm curious to see how that all plays out
Yeah,
because he's
he's
just like he's so naive.
yeah, and he's a totally unwilling pawn as well. It's not like he
Yeah,
asked to.
he it like fell into his lap and he's like, I don't want it. I don't care.
Yeah, but the next book, the next section that we're going to read is book 4, Assassins.
To hear about these assassins, the mystery assassins, the eel. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe I'll be pranked like this last one. It'll be something entirely different. The assassinations impale.
The Assassinations in Pale. We'll go back in time and talk
Yeah,
about the entire 3 chapters will be Rake's battle with the Claw, which he actually just murdered within like 10 steps of the gate.
I want to see it. I want to see how cool he is.
Yeah, we will get into maybe some of what you're talking about, a whole bunch of other stuff.
I mean, I think I mentioned this to you the other day at work, but I was just like, am I liking this enough that I just want to reread it? Like, I want to be
Yeah.
at the end and just be on a reread right now, like following along. Uh,
Yeah, some people do that. Some people read I've seen posts where people have read every book twice before moving
yeah.
on to the next book. I
Well,
still
it's
don't
like
think you have enough info after the first book to get a whole lot more out of it.
well, because I mean, I just look at it like as well. It's like I just want to read the whole series and then like be on a reread of the series. That's what I'm excited for. I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, you want to just inject Malazan into your brain with the robot.
Yeah. Can I just osmosis tonight while I dream? Just get the entire plot, Spark Note version, just so I can
I don't know
read
if
through.
I don't think a Spark Notes version of Malazan would be possible, to be honest.
Yeah, this is true.
Like
I mean, already, I will say this though. I like a lot of this because it's like so well paced. Like,
that
I don't know
is
if you knows that, but
that's funny to hear you say because this maybe the biggest criticism of Guardians of the Moon is that it is badly paced.
really, I think it's paced fine. But granted, this is me coming off reading Rhythm of War, so like to me,
That yeah.
this is a breath of fresh air. Like, wow, this story is moving along. Yes, it's a little jumpy. Yes, it's a little scattered sometimes, but like it's moving. We're seeing stuff happen. Like it's eventful stuff every scene most of the time. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, Rhythm of War is great. I loved it, but at the same time, there's parts I'm like this day to day life. Sometimes like let's. I just want to see what's happening because it's like just a
Yeah.
slower burn that.
Yeah, and we'll try not to give spoilers for other stuff on here too much, I think, unless it is something
Yeah,
like Star Wars that the vast majority of people have seen. But Rhythm of War is a very slow book.
yeah.
That's
Like
like
not
the one
spoiling
thing I
anything.
remember from it.
It's a good book, don't get me wrong. Like everything about it I really enjoyed. It's just slower. So reading this, I'm just like, wow, this is quick, this is going, which I like. Because I mean, I read all four Stormlight books back to back. So I mean, like that was a lot of reading. And
Yeah.
like it's like he writes it to be this long epic. Like you get like I remember some scenes very clearly. I'm like, that is not a necessary scene, but I'm glad it was in here because I enjoyed it. But this book is just like, we're going, I'm getting the info I want. Like, it's very good pacing so far.
Yeah. I can't remember in the intro episode, which we recorded like a month ago now almost.
I
Did
know,
I
it's so weird.
mention Erickson's backstory as a writer and how he got his start?
You mentioned that he wrote this as a screenplay. I think you've told me that a couple times, I think now, and
Yeah.
then he waited
Um,
10 years between this and then the rest of the series or
yeah, so
something.
I so that means I didn't tell you this, which is good. Not good, but good that I'm not repeating myself. Erickson's start as a writer, it was as a short story writer. Like he went
Oh,
like he specialized in short story writing at the
gotcha.
school he went to. And so each kind of chapter and book and scene in the series is written from that perspective of a short story writer, where every word and sentence is
Matters.
supposed to count and matter and mean something.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fact that he can do that as well as it ties the whole series ties together really well is super impressive. But that's why it like jumps around a lot and
Yeah.
things like that happen. So
Which I mean, I'm fine with. Like, I've enjoyed it because it's not like a very info dumpy book, which is great. I think not every story needs to be that way. And so, like, I don't know, I've been enjoying that. And that's cool to know that now because that actually makes a lot more sense on the structure of his writing.
yep.
So I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
so,
I believe he's described himself before as a short story writer who just so happened to fall into writing an epic fantasy series or something like that.
yeah, just pretty cool. I'm glad he did. This is great.
Yeah, and this is my second to least favorite book in the series,
Really.
and I
What's your
still like
least,
it a lot.
what's your least favorite then?
I won't tell you because I don't want to.
Oh,
That's the thing that,
I mean, I feel like
that
I want to say I could guess it because I think you maybe mentioned a book that there's a part you didn't like too much, but maybe that was just a part of it. So I don't know.
yeah, I that's one thing that I'm glad that you're gonna avoid the subreddit and going on the wiki and stuff because there's
Yeah,
preconceived
notions.
notions or hype up or downplay, like
Yeah,
not trashing on but criticizing books and scenes and parts that makes
yeah,
people have preconceived notions of scenes and then they don't hit as hard or as genuinely as they would have.
yeah. Because I mean, when I was looking at Malazan a while ago, before we even considered this, I remember I went to the subreddit and wiki literally just to find the reading order, like what book you
Yeah.
start, because there's no like book one, book two, book three. And so the list was kind of confusing. And so I just remember looking at that, finding a couple lists, like here's the core 10 books, and then here's like the trilogies, and this is kind of how it's structured
Yeah.
if you want to read it in these ways. And I was like, that's all I need to know. And so, I mean, I haven't looked at anything because I mean, the only thing I know is like Wheel of Time is like reading it is like, I think it was like book seven or eight that everyone's like, oh, it gets really slow and stuff. Like, I think that's the only thing I know about that series that people tell me because I'm like, is it good? And so this series, from what I've heard, is people is just like, it's confusing, either love it or you hate it. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, cool. Well, let's see if I like this.
Yeah, and for people that love the series, it's the only series I found where there's no clear consensus on what the best book is. Like the
Oh,
book
interesting.
that is my least favorite, I commented it the other day on Reddit, and someone else said, "Ah, you don't like that book. We'll have to fix that about you."
And you're
So
like, but listen, I still like all these books.
yeah, I like every book, and I would take most of these books over most other fantasy books that I've read if we were just comparing book to book.
Yeah. So I mean, that's good.
Yeah, and that's why I put my when I rank them, I put the books in tiers instead of ranking them 1 through 10 because it's too hard.
We'll have to do that at the end of book 10, final series wrap up.
Yeah, we can do a mini review and like rating 1 through 10 after each book too if we want.
We'll do a summary of each book.
I'll just read all my summaries again.
That'll just be we just do a podcast recording of that in its own.
Yeah, no, thank you.
You want to
Um,
talk for an hour, 2 hours straight?
no, thanks. Anyways, I think that's all that we have for this week. Do
Yep.
we actually want to do that outro that we had talked about?
Oh, what was the outro? I don't remember.
Similar to the intentionally blank.
Oh, I'm like, I remember, but I don't remember. What was it?
So we'll give some. I think I kind of want to do this.
Okay.
So we have a friend named Todd
Yeah.
that I've infected. His dad is a big fantasy nerd, and I got his dad to start reading the series, and his dad is in the middle of Memories of Ice, and Todd kind of likes reading, but he didn't want to do the podcast with us, and he probably won't listen to the podcast at all. But we have an outro that we thought of that's kind of similar to the outro of Brandon Sanderson's Intentionally Blank podcast. So we're shamelessly ripping that off.
Shameless ripoff. I think it's fine. It's not copyrighted. Besides, their
It's not
podcast,
copyrighted,
it's intentionally blank. They're still coming up with a title. We have a
right?
title.
Exactly.
We're more high class in a certain regard.
Yeah. So we have an outro incorporating Todd's name, and I don't know if I'll even leave all of this discussion in here when I edit it. I can
yeah.
if we want.
We should have got. I wish Todd would have read it. This would have been fun. I would have loved to hear his perspective on something.
He wouldn't want to talk about it in the same way that we're doing this here.
Oh, I feel it'll just be debates.
It would be debates and him never backing down from the position that he originally took.
Be like, okay, Todd, let's always, it'll just be an end and agree to disagree. Okay, next debate.
Yeah. I'll talk about Star Wars with him, not Malazan though.
Star Wars book podcast then.
Nah.
There's too many.
But if there's nothing else, we will see you all next week.
Book The Assassins next week.
Book for the Assassins, which is chapters 11 through 13. So 11, 12, and 13 is what we're covering next week.
And it's less than 100 pages. Thank goodness.
Yep.
Easier to remember all of it.
Yep. So with that, we will say goodbye to you all. And how was that, Todd?